Well, hello everyone. Today I'm going to take you through the steps so that in Excel you can actually break interval ratio level data down to ordinal level data to do more meaningful analysis with it, make a little bit more sense out of it, or to meet the guidelines to analyze a standardized instrument according to what the author requires. The data that we're going to use for these examples today is going to be the ages for our client caseload that we use in our homework and the work-life scale balance. We're going to break down the ages into categories, and I'm going to take you through each of those steps. And then we'll do the same thing with the work-life balance categories, and I'll take you through each of those steps according to the categories that the author requires for the standardized instrument. Now, if you're not remembering about levels of data, the interval ratio level, the ordinal level, the nominal level, go back to the first video, review those. And if you're not remembering about standardized instruments and how to score those, basically you have to look at the author's instructions for scoring. Then you need to review that also. The work-life scale that we started with in our homework is actually a standardized instrument. And on your instructions, it breaks it down into the categories that are necessary. But first, let's begin with looking at our ages for our client caseload. We actually have 35 participants here, as indicated right here. And of those 35, we have individual ages for all of them. What we're going to do first is we're going to calculate the descriptive statistics so that we have a broad picture of what our age groups look like for our population. Now, if you remember, to do that, you need to have inserted the data analysis tool pack into your Excel workbook. If you've not done this, again, go back to the earlier video on how to insert the data analysis tool pack. But that's what we're going to use. So here, at the top, I'm going to click on data. And when I click on data right there, I get a pop-up box that I don't need. But when I click on data, it opens up the menu. And over here, all the way to the right, I have the data analysis tools, which is the inserted data analysis tool pack. I'm going to click that on. When I do, I get all the different window options here to be able to do. Remember, we want descriptive statistics. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click my input range, which is going to be all of my ages right here. Got to be sure and capture all of those. I'm actually going to go back and capture the label also. So I capture all my ages right here. Okay. Right here at the top, it says I'm going to put labels in the first row because I captured my label there. I'm going to now tell it where I want it to go. So that's my output range. So for my output range, I'm actually just going to put it right here next to it. I'm going to use D and E for it. And then I'm going to click Summary Statistics because that is what I'm going to want. Bam, I've got my age summary statistics right there. And remember, we want to get rid of all these extra decimals, so we're going to format these cells to actually be a number with only 2 decimal points behind it. You don't always need decimal points in terms of the mean, the median. You pretty much want decimal points for standard deviation, but just keeping it at 2 decimal points helps. But you know what, for this, let's go back and let's actually just make these with no decimal points since we're looking at age and we're looking at adults. So I'm going to get rid of my decimal points and I'm going to keep those there. What I'm interested in here is I'm interested in this mean. I'm interested in the median and the mode because that gives me information. I'm interested in the range and the minimum and the maximum right here. And then I have a total of 35. So down here I have a total of 35, so I know I've captured everybody in this analysis right here. So this is my analysis for age. In looking at this, I know the mean age for the client group is 40. I have a range from 21 to 62. Now what I want to do is I want to break these down into categories that will have a little bit more meaning in being able to describe my population and to be able to do some future work with the analysis part. So we're going to do this through the easiest way possible. And the first thing you have to do when you're looking at breaking down interval ratio level data to ordinal level data is you as the researcher are going to make the analysis as to what categories are going to have meaning and how the breadth of those categories are going to look. So right here I have a range of 41 years. So in my mind, that's actually can be like 4 categories that are like 10 years apart. That's going to capture pretty much everything right there. So that's going to be a really clear-cut focus to be able to do that. So I'm going to actually come over here, and down here I'm going to put, well, let's go up here to the top, and I'm going to make my legend so I will know what I want my categories to be. So I know my youngest age is 21. So I want the first one to be 10 years. I want it to range from 21 to 31, okay? So my next one has to start with the next year, so it's going to be 32 to 42. My next one starts with 43 to 53, and my last one is going to capture everybody that's over 53 years old. So I've created my categories starting with the youngest age and being sure I capture everybody all the way up to the maximum age, and I've divided it into four separate sections, knowing that I'm going to get a fairly even balance in there because of the age ranges of my individuals. It's 41 years, so everybody's going to fit in here quite nicely. So I'm going to label this my categories. And that way I know what it is. Now for Excel, you have to create bins to tell Excel where you're wanting it to deposit these ages into. When you create your bins, you take the highest number in your category and you put it in that cell. So that's 32, that's 42, that's 53, and I'm going to leave the last one blank because it's going to be anything over 53. So I just leave it blank. So now I have my 4 evenly spaced categories. I've told Excel what my bins are going to be, the upper limits of my bins. So when I run this operation, Excel is going to know to capture everybody below the age of 32. Everybody from 21 to 31 is going to go in this category. Everybody from 32 to 42 is going to go in this category. Everybody from 43 to 53 is going to go in this category. And everybody over 53 is going to go in this category. So I put my upper limit here to define my bins for the operation I'm going to run in Excel. The easiest way I'm going to go ahead and make this fit here. So the easiest way to do this in Excel is, again, you're going to use your data analysis tool pack. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go to my data menu. I'm going to pull up my data analysis tool pack. I'm going to go to here and I'm going to turn on histogram. I'm going to choose histogram. And when I hit histogram, I get this menu. I have an input range. I'm going to have a bin range. I'm going to have an output range, okay? Now down here at the bottom, there's a chart output. If this is clicked, you will get a histogram chart. For the purposes of this operation, you want to make sure this is not checked. Sometimes in your Excel, the default is to check it, so uncheck it if it is checked. Otherwise, leave it alone. So I'm going to tell it my input range, and my input range is going to be all my ages. I'm going to say, Excel, take all of the ages of my sample population and analyze them. And when you analyze them, I want you to put them in these bins. So now I'm going to click on the bin range. I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to capture my bins, including the empty bin under 53. Because remember, I want Excel to capture everybody over 53 also. So it's empty, but I'm going to include it right there. Then I'm going to tell Excel where I want this to be. Okay, so I'm going to actually just move over here, and I'm going to make it be in columns H and columns I, okay? and then I'm just going to hit OK. So now I actually have, there's my bin, it repeated my bin. I have my frequency right here. So if I center that, then I know 10 of my participants fall between the ages of 21 and 31. I know 10 fall between the ages of 32 and 42, and I know 9 fall between the ages of 43 and 53, and 6 are over the age of 53. Now, I want to make sure I captured everyone, so I'm actually going to go ahead and go to my formulas, pull my sum up, and sum the total right here. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. 35, I've got everybody in there. Okay, so I've actually run a frequency distribution using the histogram operation under the data analysis. Easiest way to get this done, okay? So now I know my frequency for my categories, because this is what is important right here, and my frequency. But remember, it's important that we report our information in terms of percentages and not raw numbers. Percentages mean a lot more. To get our percentages, we're going to come over here to this column. And I'm going to make sure that I can get percentages for all the way down. To get my percentages, I'm going to divide the frequency by the total. You can think of it as what percentage is 10 of the total of 35. So I'm going to divide the frequency by the total, and I'm going to do this using the formula that includes column letters and row numbers. So my first one is going to say equal I2. It captures that one right there. Divide, which is your /, and I'm going to put a $, I, a $, 6. When I do this, this tells Excel to divide 10 by 35 to get my percentages. So why the $? There's a shortcut for being able to do this, and once I get this percentage, I'm going to be able to drag this box down and it's going to figure all of them. But Excel in the default drops down because it comes to this next one. It comes to I3. It would go to I7. When it comes to I4, it would go to I8. When I put the $signs in it, it tells Excel, no, don't move down on this one. Always use 35 for these operations. Always use this total right here for these operations. Don't move down like you're going to in these other cells. So anytime you want the absolute cell used, you put the $sign in front of the column and in front of the number. That way it always uses that same one the same time. You don't have to re-enter the formula each time into these adjacent cells. So I have my first one right there, so I'm going to hit enter. Comes up with that. Right over here on the corner, you see there's this little square. Now I can drag it down, and it's going to finish out my percentages. And again, I've got to change, whoops, let me scoot this back. Again, I've got to change these to percentages because that's what I'm interested in reporting. So I'm going to format those cells. I'm going to go to percentages, and I don't want any decimals here. So now I have my percentages. If I total this, I can just drag this over and it'll bring that over. Change that to a percentage. And I show that I have 100%. So I've captured everybody right here. So now I have my percentages. So based on what we did here, I can look at my categories. Ages 21 to 31, 29% of participants, or 10, fall into 21 and 31. 29% of participants, or a number of 10, fall into 32 and 42. I have 26% in 43 and 53, and 70% of over 53. What this tells me in looking at my data is well over almost half right here, actually well over half right here, fall in between ages 21 and 42. So over half of my participants are right there. And then the other percentages are right here. So now I can make a little bit more sense out of my age groups when I have them divided like this. I do have the basic descriptions of it, so I know the mean for the entire group is 40. The median is 39 and the mode is 47. Not a lot of difference there. I've got a standard deviation of 12 years. That's pretty large, but not unforeseen in a situation like this, because my range is from 41 years and it's from 21 to 62. So I have a pretty wide range right there. So this is what you do anytime you have interval level ratio data and you want to break it down into ordinal level data. You just go through these simple steps to accomplish this. You can do the same thing when we look at the work-life scale. So let's pop down here to the bottom. I'm going to pop back over here to our homework number 2, and I'm going to capture the sum of the work-life scale for our sample population when we figured it. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to pop back over here to this one, and I'm just going to put it right here next to it. Whoops. There we go. So now I actually have my work-life sum right here for each of my participants. Now, if I remember right, my author, because this is a standardized instrument, so it already has a scoring to it, the author indicated that you would need these categories right here to make this meaningful. So it's already captured. Basically, the categories are already broke down for you. You do not have to make the determination. These are the categories that they wanted, that the author says are appropriate. So you have 18 is your high one there, 26, 34, 42, and 50. 50 is as high as it goes, so you don't have anybody over 50 here. So you're not going to worry about this blank cell when it comes time to do this. So here's your categories. Here's your bin. Fairly easy when the author gives it to you and the instructions give it to you and you don't have to figure it for yourself. So essentially I'm going to do the exact same thing. For this, I'm going to just bring this down just one so that we don't confuse it with the one above it. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to choose data. I'm going to choose data analysis. I'm going to choose my histogram. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to choose my input range, which now is my work-life scale sums for each person. Okay, I'm going to choose my bin range, which is now right here. And I'm going to choose my output range, which is now going to be right here. Chart's not checked, and I'm going to hit OK. Now I actually have, see there's nobody above 50 right here, so I'm okay. So I actually have the numbers that I need to make sense out of my categories. So I'm interested in my categories, I'm interested in my frequencies, and then you know what? I got to do the same thing that I did right here. So here I actually need to come back and make sure I have the correct sum. So let me go back and let me make sure I sum these correctly and make sure I captured everybody in there and I didn't miss anybody. Okay, I've got 35, so I've captured everybody. And again, I want to know the percentages, so I'm going to do the same thing here that I did in the one above. I'm going to divide by 2 by 35 to get the percentage it is of the population. So I'm going to say equals J9 divided by $, J15, $J, $15. That's how that should read. So I'm going to actually do this and divide it J9 divided by $J, $15. Again, I'm telling Excel to always use this total here when it's calculating the operations for all these percentages. I'm going to go to the square. I'm going to pull it down. Okay. Then I'm going to go back. I'm going to change these to percentages. No decimal points. So I've got my percentage right there. So it looks like 6% of my sample population have a very bad work-life balance. 23% have a bad. 17% fall into that neutral category. 54% fall into good. Nobody into very good, but at least 54% are over into the good arena. So over half of my population is there. But we want to really look at these when we're doing further analysis, is really look at these and see what's going on with these populations and why they're not having a good work-life balance. These are the steps that you take to take interval ratio level data down to ordinal level data to be able to make more sense out of it, or to be able to comply with instructions by authors in a standardized instrument. Each of these steps for the age categories are spelled out in the handout titled Interval Ratio Level Data to Ordinal Level Data that you can find on D2L. So you have the examples here as well as the step-by-steps there. Anytime you have that data, this is the steps you would take to be able to break it down. Hopefully this is helpful for you, and from here we'll build on doing some correlations, and then we'll build from there.